It reminded me of some kinds of films that I used to watch when I was a teenager, with my gang of teenage friends. And
Mm.
we've got like two beers because we can't afford any more. And we're passing them round and we got cigarettes. And we're watching these films that are like, they're not, we weren't watching Citizen Kane together. We weren't watching Ozu. We weren't watching Kurosawa. We're watching these kind of trashy horror films. And that's part of my enjoyment of film. And this was basically, it's a monster movie, except it's got a very scary, compelling contemporary edge because it's about a drone and it's about a drone that's powered by AI. So,
Mhm.
but at its heart, this is like I think, good old-fashioned creature feature, basically. The majority of the film happens out in the woods, and there's a lot of beautiful woods out there. So I wanted to have something that contrasted with it. And there's something about Serbia. The locations spoke to me really as a filmmaker. You've got that beauty, you've got nature, but when you come back from there, you're driving back to the hotel. I was passing all of these concrete communist era, brutalist and concrete tower blocks and stuff. And
Mhm.
I just had a very powerful impression of the contrast between the beauty of the organic nature and this kind of man-made, grey monstrosities that are on the horizon there. So it was, that came from my everyday experience. And then once we were out, we went to a former military training ground. So
Mm.
we were just looking for interesting structures and stuff like that for us to shoot in. We didn't have very long. We made this film in 2 weeks, my friend, two
Wow,
weeks.
that's pretty impressive.
So it was crazy. So it was very intense. We didn't have a lot of money, we didn't have a lot of time, but
Um,
we did have a lot of fun making it. And I think people will have a lot of fun watching it too. I mean, listen, it was. I have had my eye on him for a while. I think he's really interesting,
mhm.
warm, personable, funny, human kind of actor. There's something. He reminds me of like some of the actors you'd get in the 1970s. Like a young Dustin Hoffman or something like that. And I really like that vibe, the early 70s vibe. And but the other thing that after once I thought of him for the role, the thing that really was interesting is that his father was killed by Alien and his father was killed by Predator. So it seemed like quite a good idea for him as the son of someone who'd been killed by two monsters to have a chance to kill a monster. So it seemed quite poetic and meta in a way,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can see that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Listen, the thing is that AI, drone warfare, they're all fascinating subjects, okay? But this is not like some intellectual film about those subjects. It's a genre piece. Yeah.
Right.
So the notion of it touches on contemporary fears, but it doesn't spend any time analyzing them intellectually. What it does is it tries to animate them in an entertaining way and sometimes it should be funny, sometimes it should be scary, sometimes it should be gory. And so I think that's a register to look at the film in. And like I said, it's a homage to the kind of films that I would watch, like straight to video rental films when I was a kid. So if you're looking for smart scientific cultural commentary about the role of AI, I don't think this is exactly the right place. But there is
Right.
something serious underneath it. What we want to do is people who watch it to have a lot of fun. And especially for gamers who watch it, because it's really designed with gamers in mind. But I'm talking about old school games, yeah, like games from the 80s and 90s, not this fancy modern stuff. Um, so but I think the thing is that it's possible to make a film that is very simple in a way, that is entertaining, um, but that touches on some themes that are quite present in our life. And I think, especially with the amount of war that's breaking out everywhere, it's good to have a piece of entertainment that can deal with the violence in a way that can make you laugh at it as much as anything else. Alex and I've done a few movies and TV series and stuff together. It's a long-standing collaboration. Um, And he's incredibly flexible as a composer. So he can do the big Abbey Road 80 string players, da, 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 all that orchestral stuff, which was exactly the opposite of what we wanted for this. For a start, we didn't have very much money. So that means you want to have one musician, not a whole bunch. And so one musician and a synthesizer. Again, there's something about those 1980s films with the synth scores. It was something that was very achievable. We could get a big sound and we could add in elements of, let's say, house music, trance music, some very discordant noise elements, and the rest of it. So it helps pump up the film. Hopefully, it helps pump up the film, make it edgy, and reminds you of the era that this film is dedicated to. Which is
Hmm.
squarely in the middle of the 1980s.
Right.
Was great. He was great. I always like working with local crew as much as possible and with local DPs. I've done it beforehand, like say in Colombia on Pickpockets with um, Paolo, and this time I did it with Vlad in Serbia. He could work very quickly. We shot a lot of it with natural light or just a few big, screens to kind of bounce a bit of light back there. And these days, drones are not so expensive. So a lot of the time when we were shooting the
Mm.
action, we also had a drone team that was shooting stuff from above. And,
Oh, I
we
see.
always see one of the great things I think about low budget films is their inventiveness. We can't afford to show the monster all the time, and you don't want to, you need to
Right,
tease
right.
it. So coming up with this drone's eye view, and especially something for anyone who's wasted hours and hours of their life gaming, I think it's something they'll appreciate.
Right, right. That's so true. Right,
I've worked with him beforehand. I did a Netflix movie called Pickpockets.
right.
And so that's where I met him. And I just instantly I read the script. I just thought that he should be this guy. I mean, he's a great actor, got a marvelous range. He's a friend as well. It's good. It felt like he would appreciate the subtle humor in this film. He'd get it. He'd get it. He'd get the gag, let's say. So it was a great pleasure to work with him. I hang out with him a lot anyway because I live in Madrid and he lives in Madrid, so we see each other a lot. I mean, I don't know that there's any big lessons to be
Mm.
learned here. I mean, I wouldn't want to spend my whole life making just low budget films. I don't want to spend my whole life
Right.
making bigger budget films. The important thing is to be flexible. It was a good, fun opportunity. We did what we can with the money we had. It was kind of I saw it as a crazy and fun challenge. And it was that. Um, you have less voices, I guess, when you make a low budget film. But these things have their own pressure as well. So I don't know. I mean, it's I'm trying to think if I've got anything intelligent to say about this.
Right.
And I don't really, you maybe it's a bit crazier, lower budget, you have a bit more freedom. Um, but there's still a load of nonsense that goes on. That's part of the fun of filmmaking, all the behind the scenes nonsense. But as long as you have fun, I mean, for me, it's great. What is it? Orson Welles said, it's like, or is it John Ford? Said it's like having an amazing train set. Well, I don't know if when you were a kid you had Scalextrics like toy cars or trains, and you have all these people standing around. You get a chance to do this very pure, childlike, chance to sort of make a film. It's very enchanting. I think, whether it's big budget or small budget, you've got slightly less responsibilities. Small budget, maybe you can be a bit freer. I don't
Mm.
know. Sorry, I don't have anything that intelligent to say.
No, no, no. You had a great actually answer and really engaging. Well, they told me to wrap it up, unfortunately.
Okay.
But thank you for your time, Peter.
No, thank you very much. Good questions, man. I enjoyed talking to you.
Thank
Nobuhiro
you.
Hosoki. Have a great day, yeah? Whereabouts are you in New York, by the way?
I'm living actually in Astoria, Queens, which
All
is like
right, okay.
15, 20 minutes away from Manhattan. So it's quite like a nice neighborhood.
Great, good. Okay.
As you know, AI machines provide a viable, economical solution. Either learn to work together, or I'll replace you with them.
What does this sign say with the skull and crossbones? I'm still not convinced that AI is going to replace us all.
Disagree, man. Whoever controls the machines controls the future.
What is that?
It was the Dragon. Defense, reaction, and ground neutralization.
Why would anyone even build something like this?
Here! Here! Override! Look at them! Stay down.
Run! I said run!
We have to go back.
We stick to the plan.
Where we all go on a nice hike and become best buddies because it's working out great, that plan.
Look at Cody.